What's up, guys? VitalSyntax here, and we're taking another look at the Crysis 3 open beta on the Xbox 360. In the last video, if you guys haven't seen that, I'll put the link in the description. We went over the Hunter game mode on the map Museum, and today we're going to go over the second map and the second game mode, which is Airport and Crash Site. So keep in mind, you can play both game modes with both maps, so you can play Hunter on both Airport and Museum, as well as playing Crash Site on both Airport and Museum. And Crash Site is something you've probably seen before if you played Crysis 2. It's a returning game mode from that game, whereas Hunter is kind of a new iteration, a new version, a new game mode for the series. So if you remember with Crash Site 2 from Crysis 2, it's very similar to Call of Duty's Headquarters game mode, where you have different capture points that are kind of random around the map. They're not, completely random points, but they do kind of have set areas that the pods will drop in, but they're kind of chosen at random. So essentially you have this orbital dropship that will fly around the map and drop these pods into an open area, which is actually something I'll talk about in a second. And if you get close enough within a certain radius of those pods, you'll be able to capture the pods and get points for your team. Now in a game mode like this, they put a lot of emphasis on playing the objective versus getting kills. So you'll get a lot more points for controlling the objective than you will for getting kills if you want to, get a lot of points for that. To play something like Team Deathmatch. So I do like that they're giving a lot of points and putting a lot of emphasis on playing the objective and playing as a team. Now, I said earlier that the pods drop in typically open areas, which is actually something that's really awesome that has to do with the map design for Crysis 3. Now, I don't know about all the maps, but at least the maps that we've seen so far with Crash Site, which is the airport, once again, and museum. I like that they're doing these pods and the capture points in open areas. That means that you can't camp in a corner like you could in something like Call of Duty, where the headquarters are often indoors and there's these corners that you can just sit in and control the headquarters really easily. Whereas in Crysis 3, it's more open areas. They're kind of put it out in the middle of a field or in the middle of a plaza or something like that, where you can get shot from a lot of different angles. So you're very exposed, so you have to be really smart about using your stealth nanosuit ability or using your armor nanosuit ability. And also, sticking as a team and controlling those flag points as a team. Now, unlike in Headquarters, what you see in Call of Duty, if you control the headquarters, you don't have... in Call of Duty, if you control the headquarters, you can't respawn until the enemies capture that headquarters. It doesn't work like that in this game mode. You can control the headquarters, and then the other team can control the headquarters and switch back and forth. It's more like a domination point or a flag point in something like Conquest or Domination. So you can easily switch between which team is controlling the point multiple times, even if the pod isn't moving around. It seems like the pods just stay in place for a couple minutes, so you'll have the pod move around quite a bit, which is also really nice that it's not, one key location. It's kind of a king of the hill mode in some senses as well. That's, the king of the hill location is moving around quite a bit. Now, another thing I want to talk about in Crysis 3 is the power weapons, which is a really interesting, and I'm not really sure how I feel about this, and I hope that there's going to be the ability for people to turn some of these things off on the PC side of things for running their own servers. But there's power weapons in the game, and they're not necessarily like power weapons that you'd see in Halo, but that's kind of what I kind of think that they're inspired from. So there's these alien weapons placed around the map at random locations. You'll find things like these plasma rifles that shoot like laser beams, and you also find like rocket launchers or these huge like plasma cannons. And in some ways, I think that they put those in the map to balance out the pinger, which is the mech that you guys are seeing here. So this can be controlled by anybody. It kind of spawns in at a random point during the game. It seems like it's kind of not at the beginning of the game, but not like towards the end. It's kind of, I guess, somewhere in the middle of the round. It doesn't spawn, at one person's spawn point or near one team's spawn point. It kind of spawns in the middle of the map, so it's kind of whoever can get to it first, which I don't know if I really like that, because I don't know, I feel like it should be earned in some way other than just who can get to it first. Although it's not really that powerful, it's not overpowered by any stretch of the imagination, especially on the console side of things, because the controls are very delayed and very hard to use. It's kind of laggy, and there's like very low sensitivity, whereas on the PC, I remember playing in the alpha, it was a little bit easier to control. So hopefully they balance that out in some ways. And they've also implemented, like I said, those power weapons, the alien weapons that you can find around the map, I think to kind of balance out the pinger. That way you can, if the enemy team has a pinger, you can pull out one of the huge plasma cannons or something that's spawned in on the map and take it out pretty quickly. Or you can use one of the classes that has the rocket launcher or grenades or something to do a lot of damage. You're probably not going to be able to want to, shoot it with an assault rifle or a submachine gun or a sniper or something. That's probably not going to do enough damage to actually take it out. They also have a really cool mechanic that actually allow you to steal the pinger. So if you actually you're actually able to jump up on top of it, kind of vault over the top of it, and pull the person that's in the cockpit out so you can take the position in the cockpit, which is kind of a similar mechanic to what you'd see in Halo, where you can kind of hijack different vehicles from enemy players. Once you get to one of these dropped pods, there's actually shields that you can detach from the pods themselves. You just walk up to it and probably hold X on the Xbox 360 platform, and you'll actually pull like a riot type of shield off of the dropped unit, which is actually pretty cool. But the thing is, they balance it out in a way that I really like. So your head is still very exposed, but the rest of your body is very covered. So it's kind of hard to take out somebody unless you're shooting for their head while they're behind that piece of armor or that riot shield type of thing. You can also throw it at people, which is pretty cool. It goes pretty far. It's definitely a powerful throw, although it has a lot of arc to it, so you can't use it at long ranges or anything like that. But if you're up close to somebody and you have that shield out, just throw it at their face and it'll kill them in one hit. On this map we're playing, if you look off in the background, you'll see what's called the Nano Dome, which is this really cool idea that's kind of taken from the single player component of the game. If you guys have seen some of the trailers and things like that, where there's essentially this huge nano-shaped dome that surrounds downtown New York, and you're kind of in the middle of it in this multiplayer map. So I like how they're kind of tying in at least this map and hopefully some of the other maps into kind of the single player storyline and the scenery that we see in the single player, including the Nano Dome, which is really awesome. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some type of airport type of scene that this was taken from for the single player as well. Something that a lot of people are asking, including myself, is with the full retail version of the game, how many maps are we going to have? How many game modes are we going to have? Obviously, there's 2 in the beta, and those are obviously going to be in the full game. But on top of those 2, what are we going to see in the full game? So unfortunately, we don't know at this point exactly all of the content that's going to be in the game. But I would expect that they're also going to include, on top of the Crash Site and Hunter game mode, some type of free-for-all game mode, probably some type of team deathmatch game mode, and hopefully some other objective-based game modes, but we haven't had anything confirmed yet. And then as far as maps, once again, we don't know exactly how many of the maps are going to be included. I would hope, a pretty good selection. And another big thing is the modding tools. With Crysis 2, there was mod support. There was a obviously the CryEngine 3 dev kit, but they also had a separate Crysis 2 mod toolkit, which is very similar in some ways to the CryEngine 3 toolkit. It just had a lot of the assets that were designed by Crytek for Crysis 2 included in this developer pack. And so that's going to be available, I don't know when, but hopefully sometime soon after the release of Crysis 3. That way we can start getting some really cool mods and maps and things like that. There's actually some really cool mods and stuff out there for Crysis 2 that the community have been working on. So I hopefully on the PC at least, I don't think it's going to be available to consoles. Hopefully there'll be some really cool extra add-ons that the community kind of creates with the tools that are released. And then the last thing I want to touch on is the graphic fidelity. Something that people complain about with Crysis 2 is when it was first launched, it was missing a lot of the higher-end enthusiast type of features, things like DirectX 11 support, things like super high-resolution textures. And they added those in a patch after, a couple months after the game had already been out, or maybe a couple weeks. I don't remember exactly what the time frame was, but it allows you to enable DirectX 11 support with like high-end tessellation, and also they included a huge, very, very high-resolution texture pack. And they've said with Crysis 3 that those are going to be included by default, so those aren't going to be added on later. They're actually going to be there, supported right out of the box, which is really cool that they're kind of supporting the high-end enthusiast type build gaming PCs, because that's something that Crysis, especially Crysis 1, has always been known for. And even though Crysis 2 out of the box didn't necessarily support all the high-end enthusiast stuff, once they patched it in, it really did. So I'm hoping with Crysis 3 it's going to kick people's asses as far as trying to get max settings and get high frame rates and things like that. So anyway, thanks for watching the video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to give me a like or a favorite, and I'll see you guys in the next video.